The worst thing you can do is get involved with a client who is not ready to embark on this journey. Because what they're going to do is they're going to suck all the energy out of your team. They're going to suck all the energy out of themselves, and you're going to fail. Probably one of the most common questions that I get asked, like whether it's in podcasts or in like strategy sessions with people, or they'll ask the question, how do you sell digital transformation, or how do you pitch it? How do I pitch these ideas? It's like, and yeah, I always have to say, like, I don't sell digital transformation and I don't pitch anything. I have a conversation. Like, the whole idea is get to the root of what a person's problem, what the company's problem is. Have this organic discussion. It's like every time I'm talking to someone, they're like, well, what happens if they're not ready? You know what I mean? Like, what if you're having the conversation and it becomes obvious to you during the conversation that this client isn't ready. They're gonna they're gonna fail if you try to digitally transform, right? And the answer is nothing happens. You walk away. The worst thing you could do is try and do an engagement with someone who isn't ready. That's like the worst scenario for everyone involved. And one of the hardest parts, the thing that I'm having the greatest amount of difficulty conveying to people, is getting them to change the way that they do business development. Business development isn't about trying to sell products and services to people at all costs. It is trying to find the the company that needs your product and service. Like, it's like a matchmaking thing. And because when this isn't a project, digital transformation is a strategy. It's not a project. It's almost a marriage in a lot of ways. In our case, when we meet with clients, it's a 2 or 3 year. When we first decide, hey, we're going to go ahead and do this together, it's a 2 or 3 year commitment. Agile. Hey, we don't draw out we're going to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We know we're going to do A, B, C, and then we're going to reevaluate, and then we're going to do D, E, F, and then we're going to reevaluate. And with digital transformation, it's not, you're not selling it. You're solving a problem. You're using digital transformation to solve the biggest problems they have right now and lay a framework to solve all their future problems. That's what digital transformation is, right? But I can tell you, if you think about it today, right? Vaughn and I were talking about this. Mm-hmm. So I had shot a podcast this morning with some guys. So I was on somebody else's podcast. Then I had a strategy meeting with a potential. They're not a client. They're another integrator. Had a strategy meeting, and then I had two other discussions. One was with a client who's asking us to quote a project for them, a digital transformation project, and then I had another project discussion. In all four of those conversations, the selling digital transformation question came up in all of them. With the integrator we talked to this morning, the strategy session we had, it was, what happens if they don't want to move forward? Well, they don't want to move forward. You want to find out during the business development cycle, you want to find out if they're ready. And if they're not ready, run. The worst thing you want to do is get involved. The worst thing you can do is get involved with a client who is not ready to embark on this journey. Because what they're going to do is they're going to suck all the energy out of your team. They're going to suck all the energy out of themselves. And you're going to fail. You're going to ruin your reputation. You're going to, we've had projects that we've worked on where it became very clear, we had a couple of them actually, where it became very clear that politically the tides were changing. There was one one company we worked with that basically had two segments. They had two digital transformation groups. Okay. This is a huge company, multi-billion-dollar, publicly traded, everyone knows who they are. If I were to say their name, which I can't, but like in 18 months I can once the NDA expires. But they had two digital transformation groups, one based in the United States and one based in Germany. Okay. And there was a holy war going on. Okay. So there was a digital transformation initiative coming out of Germany, and there was one coming out of the United States. The one coming out of Germany was solution centered. The one coming out of the United States was technology driven. Okay. One was based on, just German solutions. For those of you that don't know, Germans are incredibly nationalist when it comes to products. I mean, one of the first things they look to see, does another German company make this? And if the German company makes it, they buy that. They don't go outside the borders. That's not how it works in Germany. And that doesn't mean that the Germans don't make great products. They do. But what it's very important to understand is that economically, they're incredibly nationalist. So Germans work with German solutions. That's the way it is. So you had this huge push in Germany for one solution, and then you had this huge push in the United States that was technology driven. Okay, both solutions were initially, the way the engagement worked out for like the first 18 months, it was, we basically had total control over what was going on in North America and China. Okay, and the Germans had control over everything that was going on in Europe. So in Europe and Western Asia and Africa and the Middle East, they had complete control. We started moving ahead. So there were limitations. Obviously, we talk about the limitations to the solution-centered approach. So we started moving ahead. We started developing digital work instructions. We started developing recipe management. We started developing self-aware SCADA systems and their plating lines, which was really the game changer for them. And the Germans saw the writing on the wall, the German team. And so basically what happened was the German team pushed to combine the two groups together. Okay. And then they did everything in their power to get rid of what was going on in the States. And that's what happened. And that's a political war. You cannot, when you get involved in those political wars, these things happen. Okay. It had nothing to do with the merits. It had nothing to do with which solution is the better solution. Okay. It had everything to do with our solution was developed in Germany, and it's with German software, and it's with German hardware, and so that's a political battle you're going to fight. And we as a team told our client, we had this whole team here in North America that we were working with, and we were architecting the solution with them, and they asked us, well, what do we do in this case? And I said, well, we have a conversation with the jury. And, we had meetings. We were having weekly meetings and I think monthly meetings with their team. And I said, we just need to lay it out on the table. And they said, like, really? And I said, yeah, that's exactly what we have to do. So we put together a presentation all centered around the unified namespace. And where the beginning of the end for this project was, we pitched we laid out the architecture for the unified namespace. What the German team did was they presented an architecture that favored the solution-centric approach. Okay. And it was obvious what they were doing, and I drew up the unified namespace, and we compared them, and we had this whole meeting, and they brought in people from Europe and all that jazz. And obviously, I can be pretty convincing. So I was able to make a very compelling case that we needed to go the unified namespace route. And people were on board, and everybody said the right thing in the meeting. And then, a new roadblock was put up in front of us. Okay. And by the way, let me say this. The people, when you get involved in political battles, people, humans look out for their own interest. That's the way it works, right? When you get involved in political battles, I think oftentimes it is too easy to just say, the person who's fighting you politically is a bad person. You know what I mean? They don't like you, or it's personal or whatever. No, they believe they were doing what was in the best interest of the organization. They did. They believe that the company should spend more money. They believe that the company should take longer to develop it. They should spend more money. And what they should focus on is known technology. They believe that that's what was in the best interest of the organization. But we know that that's not, I mean, that we know that that's not the optimal way to innovate in manufacturing. And how do we know that? Okay. And the answer is we know that from the companies who operate on the bleeding edge in manufacturing. Okay. The Tesla model, the Tesla model of manufacturing is the model of the future. Okay. And I assure you, this client who went this route, went the exact opposite way that Tesla has gone. Data silos, right? Data
It's why
silos.
Tesla wasn't even allowed to build their manufacturing facility in Germany, and they started building it before they even finished approvals. And the Germans were offended that Elon would do such a thing or
Right.
take such a risk. It's the epitome of that example right there. Go
right.
on.
This is an important point. They're some of the best engineers in the world are German engineers. Okay. But the Germans are they're very similar to the Japanese in that what they do is they look to Americans innovate, right? We try lots of different things. We get bored. We innovate and we try new things. We invent the stuff. We're the inventors. We come up with the idea. We're the ones who stake our life savings on an idea and go broke. Germans aren't like that, right? German engineers aren't like that. What they do is they perfect, they're in the art of perfecting solutions. And that has worked for a very, very long time, right? It's worked for a very, very long time. But 20 years from today, if you've got $100,000 to spend on a car, you don't buy a Mercedes. You buy a Tesla. Okay? If you got 100 grand to spend, you buy a Tesla. You don't.
Hey, I will say a
Go ahead.
BMW is a really well built machine. Like when you close the door, they have perfected the engineering process.
That's right. But the point is that isn't what digital transformation is. Digital transformation is innovation, right? It's not perfection. Digital transformation is about creating a process that allows you to innovate, solves your problem today, and allows you to innovate. That isn't perfecting existing processes. They're two entirely different things, right? So what's important to note here is that when people ask me the question, right? When people ask me the question, how do you sell digital transformation? And I've said this many times, I don't. I have a conversation. And the first thing I'm trying to figure out is, are these guys ready? Are they ready? And if they're not, I just walk away. I'll get off, and Vaughn will tell you, I'll get off the call and go, they're not ready, man. And we just move on. And I had this conversation earlier. We got off a call with a client who's asking us to quote a digital transformation initiative for them. But and my first question, when they sent the RFQ and we read everything, they specifically asked us to do it. And I read the RFQ and I said to my engineering manager, hey, I need to have a call with these guys and ask some questions. The very first question was, how does this project fit into your digital transformation strategy, your overall digital strategy? And they said, we don't have one. And then I said, how does this project fit? How is this project going to be a stepping stone to the next thing you do digitally? And they said, it won't. It's a standalone turnkey project. And so then we asked all these other questions, blah, 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 blah. I went all the way through. Can we help these guys? Yes, we can help them. But when I got off the call, the first thing I said was, this isn't what we do. This isn't there's 99% of integrators can go and do what they're asking you to do. And they'll charge you if you saw the price that we would charge you for this, you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe the number because it's going to be a third of what everybody else charges you. I already know what that's going to be. And I even told him, I said, just by the way that you guys wrote this RFQ, I can come within $50,000 of what your quotes are going to be. And I can tell you how much contingency they put in each quote too. And I look like a lot of I want to talk about one of the things I really want to get into. We help a lot of new integrators, right? Or we help integrators who've broken off and created like a digital transformation arm. We do a lot of that. But you know who we don't help? Traditional integrators. They don't think they're doing anything wrong. They don't think that their methods are dated. They don't think that. And I want to help them. There's a couple of integrators, especially like real big in the ignition space, who, I've reviewed a lot of their proposals. They don't know it, but they're people they're giving proposals to are having me review them. And I reviewed their work. I reviewed their projects. And I can tell you, I'd be ashamed if I were them. I really would. I would be ashamed. There's one company in particular that likes to hold itself up as like, elite developers, and like they have great engineers. You know what I mean? I've been on calls with a lot of their engineers, but just the leadership in that company, you can tell they are just raping their customers. I mean, it is assault what they are doing to their client base. It's assault. There's no other way to describe it. You can tell that those guys probably write, they probably expect 10 to 20% of their proposals to close. We have a 77% close rate. If we write a proposal, there's better than a 2/3 chance we're getting the project. We don't write a lot of proposals in a year. I think maybe 40 to 50 total in the whole year. I'll bet you these guys write 1,000. I'll bet you they're pumping out. I'll bet you they're pumping out 3 proposals a day. They got to stay in business because their numbers it's crazy what they're charging people. So much baked in, so much contingency. And you look at that and you think that's money wasted. It's money that could have been used in digital transfer in other initiatives. It's nuts.
I could never work for an integrator like that more than like a few months.
Right. Because eventually you just it hurts. You know what I mean? It hurts. Imagine, I say this, we're brain surgeons, right? And I say that, integrators are brain surgeons, right? And so you need to act like it. But imagine, you got something wrong with your brain. You know what I mean? If something happens to you, then your wife, your kids, your family, they're left without income, they're, all that stuff, right? That's what manufacturers are coming to integrators for. We want to keep our people employed. We want to keep them with their benefits. We want to keep taking care of their families, right? Imagine you go to the brain surgeon and that's what's on the line. And the brain surgeon, the first thing he thinks is, well, I'm not right for this patient. This patient isn't right for me, but I want the money. And he probably doesn't have a lot of options. He's probably not going to shop around. So I'm going to go ahead and charge him 3, 4, maybe 5 times as much as I can because I know he can afford it. And I'll make it so that he can't get other surgeries that he needs, right? Imagine if that were the approach your doctor took, right? Integrators do that all the time, all the fucking time. I was saying earlier today, could you imagine if we brought one of their guys on here, like their apps engineers, like especially the guys in Texas?
No.
I was on a call with those guys one time, and there was this one guy, I don't want to say his name, but he just absolutely blew up. He was completely wrong, totally wrong. And he absolutely blew up at me on the call. I mean, just blew up at me. And I said, well, I mean, I understand you're upset, but that doesn't make you right. I mean, put your facts together, come back and prove me wrong empirically, and I'll admit I'm wrong. He never called me back. By the way, we won the project. And it was a home run. But I want to say this before we had the staff meeting 1 minute. There was a guy, I don't want to say his name. All right. There was a guy who was a new Rockwell guy. And he was one of the few people who defended Rockwell. I think he'd only been at Rockwell like maybe 6, maybe 8 months. And he actually wrote a post saying, well, Walker, I think you need to take a look at this. Rockwell actually is kind of going open. He don't think that no more. I think he's been there now like 3 years or whatever. We had a private conversation back and forth. He's completely jumped ship. He likes all my posts when we hit Rockwell over the head. He's giving us the thumbs up, which is really just, hilarious that, but I don't know. We'll talk about that later.